So the travel tripod, I think, is probably the most underrated accessory that most people overlook because they think their camera has IBIS or something like that. I mean, a lot of cameras have IBIS. But you're totally missing out. Travel tripods evolved so much recently that they're getting super light. There's almost no reason not to have one, especially if you're out traveling. Let's talk about it. Guys, welcome back to the channel. So before I get into the video, I do want to let you know that Neewer sent me 2 tripods that they wanted me to check out. They didn't ask me to make a video, so this is not a sponsored video. I feel like the travel tripod is the most useful tool for most photographers, and for the longest time, I had a travel tripod. It was this guy. It was the Sirui, and Sirui makes great tripods. Again, this is the Sirui T1204X. It's a carbon fiber tripod, and these things were really expensive at the time. This is a pretty old one. I've had this probably 8 to 10 years, and it's a 4-section tripod, and I love this thing. It was great. It was lightweight for its time, but you could kind of see it's a little bit bulkier than what I have here, which is, for example, this is the Neewer LT32. You can kind of see how much bulkier that is on the base, and this doesn't even have a ball head yet attached to it. So I feel like the innovation has really took place with the travel tripod, so that's why I think this video could be informative if you're out on the market looking for a tripod. This one is a reversible one. You can see there's a lot of wasted space between the gaps here to make it reversible and foldable, even though, let me see, this thing is, yeah, it's a little bit smaller reversed in, but look how much thicker it is at the base. And if you guys know about traveling with gear, you want to keep things very compact and minimalistic. This whole reverse process that I used to do for this tripod was kind of tedious because I did this multiple times. I wanted to kind of set up the shot really quick, and next thing you know, by the time you reverse this, set this in place, the whole entire area is full of tourists, and you're like, damn, I missed the shot. Neewer sent me 2 tripods to take a look at. Again, they didn't ask me to make this video. One is the LT32, this one's the LT35, and if you look closely, they kind of taken a lot of the concepts from some of the popular tripods and kind of made it their own. So both of these tripods are 5-section tripod. This one is the LT35, and you can see has the locking levers. Let's talk about the legs for a second. Both of them are carbon fiber. I feel like the carbon fiber that's been put on the LT32 feels a lot nicer. It feels like it's I don't know how to explain it. It just feels like it's weaved in nicer compared to the LT35. It uses that traditional tubular style legs for tripods, and it does come in, again, 5 sections here. And then both of them extend to about the same height, 51 inches or something like that. I'll leave specs right in the video because this video is not about specs. In fact, this video took me quite a while to put together because I really wanted to use and test these. I really wanted to put these things through the test to make sure that they're good, like out in the field, because that's what it's all about, right? So these guys side by side on the ground, almost about the same height. The LT32 is a little bit taller, I'd say about 3 inches or so. Not off by very, very much. I mean, as far as height, that's what it is. Put this aside real quick. So I'll be honest with you, I'm a bigger fan of the twisty locks, like my Sirui over there. But I guess, you know, for this particular compact tripod, I'm willing to make that sacrifice because it's so small and so light. But you'll notice on the LT32, it has aluminum locking legs. I like that. I appreciate that. The LT32 comes with this little Allen key here, and you can actually stick that right in the legs and do little adjustments. If you know anything about tripods, over time they loosen up. On the LT35 rather, this is why I like those twisty locks. This thing takes forever. Although I'm pretty efficient at it, I think. On the LT35, the locking levers are plastic. Given my experience with tripods in the past, plastic locking levers don't typically fare well. Over time, they kind of loosen, they wear out, and since there's no adjustment on these, after they kind of get loose, there's no way to recalibrate it to spec, so you're basically maybe out of a tripod at that point. That's kind of a big difference right there. I mean, again, as far as like collapsed height, they're kind of like that. if you take a good look at this, a lot of people I think in the comments are gonna be like, yo, Rick, that looks like the Ulanzi Coleman tripod. And I would say, yeah, it kind of looks like that. Now I have no experience with the Ulanzi Coleman tripod, but I do know just by looking at it, it looks visually almost identical with the exception of this center column, which is round, versus I think on the Ulanzi one, it's triangular, kind of like this one. As a center column. I do like this twisty lock center column. I think the Ulanzi one comes with a flip lock, and I'm not a fan of that, especially down here, because you can just like pull it up by accident, versus a twist really requires you to, you know, lift and lower the center column. This is how the ball head locks. It kind of has this really low profile ball head. I have the R5, it doesn't have a lens, but you can kind of see it looks like this, and it locks in place. Really like that feature. When you loosen this kind of basically becomes its dedicated pan. It has this lock right here, and the base ball head does give you about 15-degree rotation. So you have like this bit of pivoting point to pitch your camera forward and back about 15 degrees. And if you need more, you just pop this guy up and you have just a little bit more. Now that we're talking about that, I feel like that's one of the limitations about having this style of ball head. Now, this isn't the only tripod in the world that has this. This is the same problem that I think the Peak Design tripod also has, is that it's limited to its rotational axes based off of where the ball head is designed. So for example, I took this out to shoot the Northern Lights, and the Northern Lights decided to be a lot closer than I expected. Turn this guy 90 degrees, to get more of a vertical shot, frame myself a little bit higher up. I surely noticed this limitation where you can't pivot the camera. You can only turn it 90 degrees. You're locked in because of this right here, this ball head section. It does have this sort of cool locking mechanism. So once you place the camera, it locks in, and this is kind of like your safety switch. If that concerns you, the LT32 comes with this ball head that does come off, and it gives you the ability to add a traditional ball head with this. So it does come with this attachment right here, if I can get it in there. Let me go get a ball head. Here, this is the Suray K20X. Traditional style ball head. That thing can just like lock in just like that. And now you have kind of like full range of motion. You have your pan, and then you also have your 90 degrees. But then with this, you can also tilt your camera up and down, which is really nice. I do like the minimalist, smaller setup and travel-friendly ball head that it comes with, but I feel like for more usability, if you're taking this out, slapping on that traditional ball head will give you a little bit more flexibility. You can take the center column out. It's a lot of threads on there. Boom, you can take that center column out. It does drop down pretty low. Boom, drop that center column really low to get those low angle shots, which I really appreciate. So I do like this Neewer LT32. I'm keeping this as my sort of travel friendly tripod, super lightweight. So both of these tripods, given its factory head, weigh about 2.5 pounds, 2.6 pounds on the LT32 and 2.5 pounds on the LT35. So it's not that much weight difference. But let's talk about the LT35 for a second. The same thing, LT35, I did mention to you about the plastic locking levers. Not too much of a fan of that. But if you look closely at the legs on the LT35, they have that kind of non-traditional tubular style legs. They use sort of this kind of like a flat shape. I don't know, what do you call it? Like a hexagonal type shape tube. Basically inspired by like Peak Design's tripods, which use something very, very similar. And I gotta say, by doing that, what they did was they made this tripod more compact when you're carrying it like this. So the actual thickness of the tripods compared to the LT32 is definitely it's a bit different. It's a little bit smaller. Same thing, 5 sections, carbon fiber. It has this aluminum bar for the center column. It's one piece, but they also give you a shorter one. Both tripods have these 1/4-inch mounts, which I'll be honest with you, is super handy and super helpful to catch your BTS, or if you want to add a microphone to the setup. You'll notice one thing about the LT35 is that it uses a traditional style ball head. sort of like the Sue that I put on to the LT32. And I gotta say, I'm a real big fan of this ball head. It is super smooth. They really paired this tripod with their ball head. Pretty low profile, I would say, in comparison to like something like that. This is like a monster. So it has a very smooth pan, and when you unlock the ball itself is super smooth. They do have this locking lever for the ball head, which is great. It works really well, locks it in. I'm personally not a big fan of the locking levers. I much prefer the dials. I feel like if you let's just say you have the camera planted on here. Let me just unlock this. It has this locking collar to do a safety lock. Here we go. I don't have my other camera with me, but like really interesting. They both use the Peak Design plates, but the Peak Design plate, the actual Peak Design plate is a little bit like, it doesn't have the same height as the ones that it comes with, so it doesn't really go in. Yeah, it doesn't really go in, but something to kind of be aware of. But let's just say you have this camera, it's GoPro, you lock that in. Again, it's kind of like an automatic quick lock. You tighten it down. Let's just say this thing weighs like 20 pounds or something. And you take your tripod, you're going doing some landscapes, you take your tripod and you have like this locking lever, and you just kind of like accidentally bump it on your shoulder or your camera strap, and boom. Next thing you know, this thing kind of flops down. Not a good sign, especially if it's on the heavier end with like a super long telephoto lens. And I will tell you that this ball head does support an RF 100 to 500 on R5. I think it's like a 22 pound max, which is really nice for a ball head like this. This locking lever, not too much of a fan of it. I wish they had a regular, just kind of screw type knob. I think it's a lot safer. In comparison with the LT32, on the LT35, you can, if you wanted to do 90 degrees, you could still have the option to pivot the camera up and down. Don't have that option with this guy, with the ball head that comes with the LT32. So for me, at least in particular, I think I'm gonna be rocking the LT32 with a traditional style ball head. Now, the reason being that I might choose the LT32 over the LT35 is that I feel like the LT32 is a bit more stable, the way the legs are. The LT35 it's a cool, compact style when it comes to like the legs being this non-traditional style set. But look at the lower part of these legs. This is the last section. It's super thin. I have an Apple Pencil, and I mean that's kind of how thin those legs are. And then when you turn it around and you look at it from a horizontal position right here, it's super thin. I mean, this Apple Pencil is even thicker than these legs. R5 2470 going for a shot, but like even if I just hold the ball head, like there's just that little bit of give that I'm not too satisfied with. Maybe with a lighter setup. But as far as this simple setup, there's just like, I don't know, there's just like too much movement for my likings. Because I felt like it was just a little bit too risky for me. And if you guys don't have a heavy camera setup, or maybe you're not rocking a full frame camera, I think you'd be perfectly fine. Now, upon looking at the specs of this tripod, on Neewer's site, I noticed that they also have an LT38, which I think is an upgrade to the LT30. The names are super confusing, but they have an LT38, and I think the legs got thicker. You know, applause to Neewer for stepping it up and making something like this, which is relatively new, even better. Both of these tripods can support 22 pounds. They are about 19 inches. I believe this one is 19-ish inches. Again, I'll leave the specs, again, kind of like on display there. If you guys like videos like this, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Links to everything I talked about in this video is going to be down below in the description. So I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your viewership. Ooh, so before I go off and tell you, out of both of these tripods, the LT35 and the the LT32 is my new favorite travel tripod. I'm probably not going to use the factory ball head that it comes with because it's a little bit limited, but I would put my own ball head using the attachment, sort of the attachment center column accessory that they have, and I'll be rocking it like this. I love this thing. Yeah, that's what I have for you guys. I'll see you in the next video.